Russia has been interestingly poor at a lot of what's happened in the last year. And Ukraine has been spectacularly good, actually. In fact, not just Ukraine. Zelensky himself has really been a very smooth performer.
A crime has been committed against Ukraine, and we demand just punishment.
Ремонтировать надо.
Russia hasn't really done anything in order to endear itself to anyone who it really needs to endear itself to. Whereas Ukraine has emerged from being a country in Eastern Europe which people didn't really know much about. It's largely agricultural land. Probably the biggest reference point that people had to anything to do with Ukraine was something to do with Chernobyl. We, as a public, have learned a lot about Ukraine in the last year, and much of that has been positive stuff, just to sort of put that in a very vague general term. So absolutely, Ukraine has performed from a communications point of view exceptionally well, and Russia has been sort of surprisingly poor in terms of the aesthetics of the communication. In terms of the power of the communication, Zelensky and his team are excellent, and in many ways they've continued even that pre-election, that pre-presidential stage. His electioneering was really very slick, and he has a lot of people around him. That's really continued, even down to the sort of symbology of how he acts. So his non-verbal communication, he's often seen in that kind of dark green t-shirt, which would say that he's not a combatant, so he's not wearing a military uniform. However, he is in military mode. He's sympathetic to the military, but he's also indicating a sense of loyalty and a sense that this is a crisis and it's not something that is sort of regular politics, if you like. Most people are on social media, and if you are not at your work or you're not exercising or doing these other things, most people spend their time at least on their phones and usually tapped into social media. So the important thing to say is that most of the world is on there, and if you can control and you can have a sympathetic narrative on there, then you're going to do pretty well. If we go to Russia, well, the first thing to say about social media is that Russia struggles to have a presence on social media, both from a legal perspective, where I don't know if you look at pro-Russian sources, they tend to come with a warning against them, or indeed they're censored on social media. So Ukraine certainly has the vast amount of empathy on social media, and it has the more control of the landscape generally. There's more opportunities for it to communicate. Russia has come to accept its place in the world as being relatively isolated. It seems to have become comfortable with that, but also it is self-imposed as well. I mean, it used to be the G8, now it's the G7, and Russia removed itself from that, and Russia has done certain things that have isolated itself. In some ways, that has allowed the Russian state to drive the propaganda narrative of us versus them, so sort of polarization narrative. But that's ultimately part of what they're trying to achieve here. They drive a sense of Russian nationalism by a narrative of the world against Russia, and therefore we have to unite. And just on a basic kind of nationalism stroke patriotism propaganda messaging, that can be quite dangerous, because it can lead to a void perhaps in people's moral consciousness as to why things should happen and why certain things shouldn't happen.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.